Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Backlog Breakdown. I'm starting off super. I'm talk so good. I have a script right in front of me and I'm not reading it. I was trying to wing it and I just borked it. But welcome back to another episode of the Backlog Breakdown, a video game podcast where we seek to encourage and equip the church to engage the video game, the medium of video games wisely. And as I am prone to say, well, I'm one of your hosts, Nate. I apparently can't talk well or read. But with me today is my friend, my co-host, and my brother in Christ, Josh. Hey, Josh.
Hey, buddy.
What's up, dude? We are joined as well. You know, I'll get back to you. I don't care about you right now. I'm still like salty about the abuse that you and the other degenerates in the book club episode sort of like all the bad jokes.
Still, my goodness,
dude, it was so like I went back and listened to it, and I was like, are you guys proud of yourselves? Because like, I hope you.
I was proud of him.
Well, you're part of the problem.
I know
that voice. That is friend. Oh my goodness, I got a little bit in my throat. But that's my buddy John, who's also one of our patrons, and not the first time you've been on the show, but I don't know. After what you put us through, it might be the last time. Like that's yeah. But we're gonna be talking about Lord of Ring Gollum. I know it was fixed, but yeah, that's just like that. I think that in itself is sort of a meta statement about the game. And
so explain this to me. What is this? Why do you call this Lord of Ring Gollum? What is this?
Because when it originally released, that's how it was presented. Lord of Ring Gollum.
So is this a like a reveal trailer type thing? Is that what you're talking about?
I think,
or is this when the game
Lord
was
of
released?
Ring Gollum? I think that was like an in-screen, like an in-game splash screen or something like that.
Okay.
Gollum.
Okay. I'm just curious. I'll take your word for it. We don't have to like spend time with it. I just was not sure. I wasn't in on the joke. I've heard it and it's funny. But I just don't know.
I can't find like the source now anymore, but yeah, it was basically one of those things where it's like, even in like official box art or something, or like there was basically a significant typo. And so it's just like Lord of Ring Gollum.
I am seeing a Forbes article that Daedalic Entertainment, when they put out their statement apologizing for the state of the game after it first came out, in that apology statement, that they called it the Lord of Ring Gollum.
Lord of Ring Gollum. Yeah.
Which is quite funny.
Yeah. So, and again, that's that feels like meta commentary, but I will circle back to that one.
Cool.
So, John, it has it's been.
Oh, that's right. It has been.
Dude.
I wasn't prepared.
It's been
slacking. Drop the ball. But it has been some time since you were on. So what's been good since last we spoke, friend?
Oh man, I don't even remember how long ago that was.
It was it was last year at some point in time.
Last year at some point, so probably over 6 months. Still doing the same thing, still working through the apprenticeship. Still living in the exact same place. The only notable thing that's happened recently is my wife and I just got back from going to Scotland. We were there for a week, so that was pretty fun. Outside of that, nothing crazy.
Dude, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that's pretty crazy. That's sick.
That's Scotland. I don't know how that's how
you went for it.
I went for it. I hope that wasn't as cringy as it felt. But no, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. The only times I've ever been out of the country are with the United States government, with the Army. And so someday, well, that's not true. I went to Canada like once or twice. I've been to Canada a handful of times, but like that doesn't really count. That's like the 51st state. Yeah, I said it. What's up, Canada? Go make me some maple syrup. Wow. I don't know where that. Yeah, that's
hatred all about. Man, oh man.
The great northern passive aggressor right here. Anyways, but yeah, so yeah, just a little bit of traveling and yeah, sort of grinding it out, man. How's the apprenticeship going, by the way? Like you still
it's good. I'm just about done with my second year, so then I still have 2 years to go.
Okay. Cool. But
nice, man.
Well, keep it up. Yeah, I'm stoked that like you're sort of doing the trades thing, man. Like we need more qualified laborers. So attaboy. You get an attaboy. But what I guess what just to sort of like talk about how things like we're potty training and it's bad. Oh, dude, like it's like, dude, and I'm not trying to like get details, Josh, but like, was it? Is it like I'm trying to ask this in as broad a sense as possible, but like, dude, it's so rough to get this kid to like pee on the potty, like
yeah,
or in the potty rather. But
yeah, there, and it's different. It's different with every kid, so that's fun. I know for Oliver, my recollection so we had one of those little mini ones, and bringing it out into the living room so that the TV could be on when he had to use it actually helped him a lot. The other thing is that eventually, the kind of like a last straw thing is that we just had him go pantsless for a few days. Now we were, Samantha was staying at home, so we could be there with him all day. But like he was uncomfortable with that, and it just kind of forced him like, oh, he's not going to go in his pants because he's not wearing any pants. And so that, that pushed him. Yeah.
I actually, we had some friends that when they were potty training their youngest not too long ago, that's exactly what they said. Like, yeah, it's just easier with like, he's just walking around the house without pants on all the time.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay. But now
he did not like it, but
yeah, it's
it
like,
worked.
Yeah. So that, cause we have to get him potty trained this summer.
Gotcha.
So we've got a pretty tight window, but yeah, I'm not trying to like, that's weird. Yeah. Enough talk about potty, enough potty talk. But
there you go. Let's talk about Lord of the Ring Gollum.
How have you, well, I saw in the show notes here, you have Life is Good.
Yes.
So that's cool. What's good, man? What's good?
Well, it's because, I was trying to think of, what have I done since our last recording? And really, nothing super sticks out to me. But just, life is good. Enjoying life. We're doing well. No sickness, or things like that. So all's well, obviously there's things that I could be doing better. But life is good. So yeah, there's that. I will say, and this will come up again in just a minute. So my son has got in his mind, I don't know a better way to say this. There is a better way to say this, and it's just not coming to my mind. But he has decided that he wants a pet tarantula. And so we went to an exotic pet store. I had a snake growing up, and so I'm used to going to exotic pet stores to purchase mice and stuff to feed the snake. But there's one. It's not too far, but far-ish from where we are, about 40-ish minutes away from where we are. But we went there last week because we had another picnic with a bunch of other homeschool families. So we were closer. We were in the area, but it was actually really stinking cool. Like it was way bigger than I thought. It smelled better than I thought. So if you've ever been to an exotic pet store, it has pets are not the you have to constantly clean up
as
after
a general
things.
rule have like an odor.
Yes. Yeah. And it was not as bad as I expected. It was actually much cleaner. But they had some really cool birds. I'm not a bird guy, but they had some really pretty ones. I would never want to take one home.
Birds aren't real,
but they are fun to look at. That could be the case. They had these enormous iguanas in this huge cage in the middle of the store, which was hilarious because those dudes just know how to chill, like eyes half open, just like hanging out on a branch. So that was cool. They had ferrets. They had axolotls. I didn't know. I thought these things were endangered, but apparently they're getting more common because it's all the rage with the kiddos. They had tarantulas. They had other lizards and stuff like that. So anyways, super cool store. So that was fun to take a look at as well. That's like the only thing that comes to mind was just like, oh, this place isn't too far from us, especially if we're going to be looking into getting a tarantula here soon. So we're doing good. We're doing good. Exploring, not quite Scotland, but
so just a little fun fact.
Yes.
The axolotls, and I imagine there's like several species, but in the wild, it's that's where they're critically endangered. And that's like habitat degradation and disturbance. But they are apparently pretty abundant in captivity. So
makes sense. Yeah, because I'm surprised that not only that there were multiple ones, but they were actually pretty cheap. I want to say it was like $40-$50 for one of them, which again, cool in my mind, it's like I didn't even know these things existed until a few years ago. And now like, kids love them. And so I'm like, yeah, anyway, so cool little, crazy cannibalistic salamander things that can grow back their limbs. How cool is that? So anyways.
Amphibians are kind of neat, man. Like,
yeah,
I like it's now, John, like your parents had cats and dogs, right? Like they still have cats and dogs.
Yeah.
Okay.
1 cat, 1 dog.
Yeah. And I'm much more of like a dog. Like I grew up with cats and dogs. Like I don't know that I ever had any like weird pets. And as far as like a snake pet would go, like, nah, man, snakes belong outside. And I have a tentative agreement with them. Where it's like, as long as I don't see you, like we're cool. But if you present yourself to me, then we have problems because I don't like you. It's like, and I know that like you're like vaguely beneficial. Like we have like little like garter snake, kind of like brown snake.
Sure. Yep.
Like little like garter snakes. And like I know that they're good for like getting rid of pests and everything. But my rule is like I don't want to see you. If you show yourself to me, like I'm just going to tell you it's not going to get great. Like I'm going to get a little flustered. Like, I don't like snakes and spiders, but yeah, hey, good on Ollie, man. That's cool. Did you ever have any, did you or any of your siblings have weird pets, John?
The only thing I can think of, we used to have, I think, I'm not sure if it was a fruit fly that we caught or something. We like kept it in a fish tank. We were feeding it like we were giving it like jelly candies, and we named it Tot because there was, when I lived in South Africa, there was these gummies called Jelly Tots. It was like these little sugar covered gummies, and we would give that to them. It would like, I guess, I don't know if it would like suck the sugar out of it or something. So I don't know what happened with that. And then we didn't have a snake as a pet, but we my dad caught a snake. It was a spitting cobra, and it was just it was in a fish tank. We didn't keep it, but yeah, we temporarily had a snake.
That's intense. Dang,
dude, that like I love your dad anyways, but like that kind of like the fact that he's like, yeah, like I caught this spitting cobra and threw it in a tank. Like that's like even like
caught this. And then I gave it to my children.
Well, he had help.
I'm like, dad of the century right there. Boom.
Well, it was kind of on our property. Actually, I think it happened twice. It's possible that he did it twice. I forget. But yeah, I think we just kept it. And I'm not really sure if they like turned it into some sort of like animal service or something. I don't remember. That was so long ago, like over 20 years ago at this point, probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fun. And by fun,
you'll have to ask me about it.
Also a little terrifying. But
I think that was a great experience that you shared with us. I appreciate it. And we've got more experiences to share.
I had a really great transition lined up, but no.
Oh man. We played it, watched it, read it through. Now we're sharing XP with you. Critical hits, good stuff to declare. Press start, it's XP share.
Yeah, yes. That sounds so much different at 1x speed versus 2x speed.
It does, indeed. All of our little stingers are very different when you speed them up. That's true. Okay, what were you going to say, Nate? You had a nice transition.
Well, I was going to say you were talking about Ollie wants to get a tarantula.
Yep.
And in your XP share, I see that you have...
That's true.
You also have a tarantula type thing to talk about. So,
yeah.
What is this like?
So this is a YouTube channel. It's called the Tarantula Collective, and it's a dude who has, you know how video game channels, you've got a wall of video games behind you. You know, that's just what you do. This guy has a wall, shelves and shelves of tarantulas in their little enclosures of all different shapes and sizes. And but anyways. He is very educational as well. So he gives you the tips that you need, different species, you know, how to handle them if you do want to handle them. Tarantulas are different because they don't have the long and short of it is they don't, unlike, you know, animals like dogs or something that get used to you and like you, tarantulas don't have that type of memory. So basically, every time that you pull them out is going to be like its first time. It's just generally not. They generally don't enjoy being held. You know, they're not affectionate animals. So, anyways, that's just one of the things that I learned from the Tarantula Collective. So I was going to throw that out there just as hey, we have been watching a lot of videos from the Tarantula Collective. It's also really cool just to see all the different kinds. I said shapes and sizes earlier, but the different colors that there are for different tarantulas, which is really cool. There's golden knee tarantulas, which I think are kind of at least what I think of when I think of a tarantula, that have the yellow on their knees, you know, at least where their legs bend in. There's red knees, but then there's kinds that are blue. If you're interested, there's some kind of jewel tarantula that is absolutely beautiful. It's blues and reds and very vibrant as well. So it's crazy. I've learned a lot from this YouTube channel. So that's why I said it was going to come up later, is the Tarantula Collective. Was a lot of fun to kind of dig into. So that's my first kind of experience to share. The other one was a movie that we saw in the theater as a family, just kind of on a whim, because I heard that it was really good, and we had a free last Sunday. We just had a free afternoon. I was like, hey, it's playing at our local theater, you know, a few blocks away. So let's go. We enjoy, seeing the occasional movie. And it's called The Sheep Detectives. Now, it's basically a murder mystery that's aimed at kids, starring Hugh Jackman. I say that. He's not. His character, this is minor spoiler, but it's in the trailers, is that his character dies in the beginning. So it's a murder mystery. You know, his sheep are trying to figure out, you know, who done it. And it is a fun little mystery movie aimed at kids that is heartfelt. And it's just a fun little caper. Even though it's aimed at kids, it's not it talks down to, there's a fun mystery in it, even for adults. And like I said, some real heartfelt, some tearjerker moments in the movie as well. So we had a great time watching The Sheep Detectives. I will say, in general, hey, it's a murder mystery, so you might not want to take super young kids, because there's death in the movie. It's not, it's not gratuitous or anything like that. Our kids were totally fine with it, but I think that probably says something about our parenting. I don't know. But I was second guessing, oh, should Penny be watching this? but she didn't have any. It's not. It's played seriously in the context of the movie, but it's not over. Like I said, it's not gratuitous at all. So we had a great time. It was a good movie, and it's fun when there are good movies in the theaters. Put it that way. So those are the experiences that I had to share. That's what I got.
Well, how about you, John? What have you been like? What experiences do you bring to the table tonight?
I just wanted to talk about 2 books I've been reading. I mean, I have the problem of trying to read too many books at once, and partly because there's like a reading group I do through church, and then just I have books on my Kindle, and there's books I listen to on audio, and then there's books I read from my devotions. So the first one I want to start with is I saw this through church, but then my in-laws got it for me. It's the Gospel of Jesus, the 4 Gospels in a single complete narrative. It's basically combines all 4 Gospels into like one narrative, and it has like some passages from like Acts and I think a little bit of 1 Corinthians. I wouldn't say it's perfect. I think sometimes it repeats, like I guess like because like some of the different parallels in the Gospels are not word for word the same, but it's just kind of like it's still the same passage, and they kind of, I don't think they do it perfectly, but at the same time, they do a pretty good job of not repeating, like if Matthew and Mark have the same passage, like, almost word for word, they usually do a good job of not repeating it. But anyways, it's basically all 4 Gospels into one book. So that's what I've been using for my devotions, and that's been pretty good. The other thing I've been reading is Canon Revisited by Michael Kruger. That is much more of a scholarly book. It's like 500 pages long.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you are familiar with Michael Kruger. I don't know if he's Reformed Presbyterian or Baptist, but as far as I know, he's Reformed. He's a biblical scholar. I guess I would assume New Testament. But basically, Canon Revisited is him kind of going over what exactly the canon is and how it was formed and everything. But he kind of the first chapter or first few chapters are kind of talking about how exactly is it that we have a canon, and he takes the model of the self-authenticating canon. Basically, I think the 3 categories he talks about are that has the apostolic origins, that it was widely received by the church, and then that the Bible itself, just through its divine qualities, authenticates itself as God's word. And he talks about like all the different models, like for example, like the Roman Catholic model that would just be solely based on, like how the church received it, and therefore the church has that, like almost has authority over the scriptures. So like he just basically talks about a bunch of different ways of approaching how we got, or different, I guess, methods people will use to say, okay, here's how we have the canon of the Bible. And he talks about some of their pros and then some of the cons. But yeah, I still have a long way to go. I'm probably 150 pages in, but that's been pretty good.
Nice, that's cool.
Yeah, he is I did some Googling while you were talking. He is a professor he got his PhD at the University of Edinburgh, but he's the Samuel C. Patterson Professor of New Testament at Reformed Theological Seminary in Charlotte, North Carolina. So, and according to his bio on Amazon here, he is one of the leading scholars today in the study of the origins of the New Testament, particularly the development of New Testament canon and transmission of the New Testament text. So yeah, he's a New Testament professor. Yeah.
Nice.
You got it right. You were right. But yeah, how about you, Josh? What? Oh no, I did ask you. Jeez, I'm losing my mind. We're barely started, and boy, howdy, I'm already fading, and this is dangerous territory. So I've got 2 fairly non-serious-ish. Like I figure. I feel almost a little bit bad about this, but not really. So part of the potty training sort of incentive was like, we have like lots of different like rewards. For
Sure.
but the one was like, hey, if you use the potty, we'll get you ice cream. And so we went, and it's one of those things where Megan had said, like, she was like, I want you to get like real ice cream, because apparently I didn't know this, but like ice cream in the stores for the most part isn't really ice cream. It's technically it's labeled as frozen dairy dessert, or something like that, or like frozen dairy treat or something like that. But it's like, because like they add like all sorts of like fillers in the, like, and like oils and extra fats or whatever. Like, apparently I think it's delicious, for the most part. But anyways, like, so we splurged and we got some Ben and Jerry's, and historically one of my favorite Ben and Jerry's flavors is half baked. They offer now a half baked, which is, it's vanilla and chocolate ice cream with chocolate chip cookie dough, but also the fudge brownie batter kind of thing. So it's like those two ice creams like smashed together, hence the half baked kind of thing. But they offer that with peanut butter, and it is just as delightful as it sounds. Like,
nice.
I was eating a little bit, and I was like, oh, this is dangerous. And then I ate a little bit more, and I was like, I have to put this away. And then I ate a little bit more, and I was like, seriously, somebody needs to take this out of my hand and put it in the freezer now. But yeah, so, it's like one of those things where it's like there's we don't eat tons of ice cream, but it's like, you have like the go-to flavors, and it's like, ice cream is always good, but like good ice cream, especially this Ben and Jerry's like peanut butter half baked. It's just like I'm just like, listen, if you like peanut butter in your ice cream and you like really good, like, yeah, it's fantastic. So that's one that's like just fun. We had that tonight, and I was like, oh yeah, I think I'm gonna sub this. Like, I put that in instead of some other stuff, but it's not heavy. It's not. It's ice cream, and it rules.
Yeah.
Ice cream is so good. But the other is I like Jim Butcher. He's written a bunch of stuff, but the stuff that he's most sort of like known for are the Dresden Files. It's the books, Harry Dresden. There was a TV show like a few years ago, but it's kind of like almost sort of like a crime noir meets magic, like wizardry and stuff. But it's also like pretty like, they're books about Harry Dresden. He's a wizard, and he's Chicago's only wizard or something like that. But it's like, there's lots of like crime and gangsters and like, anyways, he's got a new novella out, and I was like, yeah, so I'm listening to that. It's Outlaw. I love the Dresden Files. Like,
how is that? Because that sounds really similar to something I listened to kind of recently. It's kind of like, it's almost like a satirical take on some like fantasy stuff, where basically this dwarf gets sent through a portal and ends up in like 1920s or 1930s Chicago, and he ends up being like a private investigator. And it was pretty fascinating. Unfortunately, I don't know I would fully recommend it, because it definitely had some stuff I had to skip because he's just crass and inappropriate. Sure. But it was still a really interesting concept. It sounds kind of similar to what you're saying.
Yeah. So I think, like, as far as like language, there's probably some peppered in like throughout the books. There's a bunch of books. Like, there's easily over a dozen, I think, at this point. It's like Butcher's a good writer. Like, he's not a great writer. It's like he's very much a genre writer. Like, he writes like this. Basically, this is kind of what he writes. He's good at this. I don't know that he could do much else outside this. Like, they're just kind of like fun little romps. But it's good. It's like well written. It's kind of like, it's not as like high class. It's not as like heavily stylized like a lot of like the crime noir style books. Like, he's not it's not Raymond Feist. That's a different guy. It's not Bradbury.
Chandler?
It's Chandler. He's not like Chandler. But yeah, it's, I don't know. I think it's like it's probably like I would sort of rate it like T for teen, and they're fun. They're pretty compelling. Like sometimes it's pretty corny. There's some stuff in there where I'm just like I just kind of like, it's a little cringy and sort of like, yeah, but they're fun. I like the character. I like Harry Dresden's character, and he's kind of like very much like he gets like the Peter Parker treatment, where it's like Marvel never lets Peter be happy ever. Like they're just like, no, we need to continue to punish you because that's what's interesting. And it's pretty much like Dresden, very like, even when things are going good, they're not great. So, but yeah, it's they're fun books. You know, cool. And that's cool. Like, yeah, it's
I think I've heard of him before. Yeah, I think
I've talked about him before. I think.
Yeah, but it's also the one where that guy turns to him and says, "You're a wizard, Harry." Right? Isn't it that one? Harry Dresden, the wizard detective. I thought it was that one. No. Okay.
No.
Must be something else I'm thinking of. I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, there's a kitty. Hi, kitty.
Nice.
But yeah, dude, you're the worst. Literally.
I know.
But you know what's not the worst? Video games. Video games kind of rule.
Yes.
We are a video game podcast, and we should probably talk about some of what we've been playing.
Yeah, man.
So I'm going to change up the order a little bit. I probably should have done, like, I had the really nice transition lined up and then Josh ruined it. Yep. And I had to, but anyways, John, since you are our guest, what have you been playing lately, dude?
I really haven't been playing a whole lot lately. I just haven't had as much, I guess, I just haven't really been putting in much time into video games lately. But the last thing I beat was RoboCop Rogue City. It's a first-person shooter. I'm assuming you know what RoboCop is. But it was pretty good. I enjoyed it for the most part. I mean, I wouldn't say it's like the best shooter I've ever played, but I mean, it is kind of satisfying. In the game, you're able to like pick up stuff. Like you can pick up a dumpster and throw it at enemies, so that was kind of cool.
Have you ever seen the RoboCop movie, John?
I don't think I feel like I watched snippets of the old one when I was a kid. The only one I actually ever watched the whole way through was the 2010 or 2011 reboot or whatever it was.
What's kind of funny is the old one is insanely violent. It's very 80s coded. Like it's just, and I don't know if you know this, like, and this is like sort of like not super family friendly, but there's actually, I think, a trophy or an achievement for shooting people in the nether region. And I am, which is actually something that happens in the movie. And I think that's wildly like, I love that. So, like, I'm like, I love that referential kind of like what one I love scatological humor and inappropriate things. So, but yeah, I didn't know if you knew that, but I wanted to tell you.
Like, I mean, I knew the movie was very violent. I mean, if anything, the video game makes that pretty apparent. I mean, like the video game, like you're shooting off people's arms and shooting their heads off. So, yeah.
Nice.
Outside of that, I mean, I bought Halo Wars 2. Which is another +1 for me. The only thing I've currently been playing is One Lonely Outpost. It's basically a farming simulator in space. It's not the greatest farming simulator I've ever played, but I supported the Kickstarter back in 2020. I guess it finally came out on the system I wanted it out on either 2024 or 2025, I forget. But I've been playing that. You're basically a colonist that gets sent to, I don't remember if it's Mars or some other planet, but you're kind of colonizing a planet. But yeah, so my current beatdown score is -3.
Nice.
Okay.
That is all I have.
There you go.
I'm looking at screenshots for this One Lonely Outpost. It kind of looks like,
honestly, it looked better before its current state. Like when it first came out on like the Kickstarter, I feel like it kind of looked better than it does now. But
yeah, because I'm looking at some of it and I'm like, but it's got two very different sort of like shots of the game, and it's like one is like very almost like Stardew Valley kind of coded, and then there's one that looks like it's done in sort of almost like a 3D engine, and I'm like, yeah. So,
Sweet.
but
nice. Yeah, I'm just looking at RoboCop. I might have to throw that one on a list of games, for when it goes on sale, because I'd definitely buy that for $1. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think I got it when it was like $5 or something.
Nice.
See, he said that though, John. Like, here's the thing: that I'd buy that for $1. That's actually from RoboCop. That's where the reference comes
I didn't know
from.
that.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we know this because we're old, and he said it because he's lame.
It's one of those things like Home Alone. He turns on the TV, and it's like that old timey. It's
animal.
a noir. Yeah, exactly.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
Yeah. So there's at one point in RoboCop, it goes to an ad, and there's this man, and of course he's surrounded by women, and he's like, I'd buy that for $1. So it's just, and it is stuck ever since.
He looks like a total psycho, but it's also like, it's just like, yeah.
Anyways,
yeah.
So sorry about that, but no, it does look like fun. I don't mean
I've
to undermine the game.
heard
I just like making jokes.
I have heard a lot of good things though about the RoboCop game. Like
it
has like I've heard several times. Like it's a good time. So
sweet,
sick.
Dig it.
Well, yeah. So Josh, John has regaled us with his, and he actually brought interesting things. Are you gonna Can you match that?
Right.
Or are you gonna be
I don't know. Maybe it's been interesting to me. So I finished up Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. And that is a very fun game. It is longer than I expected. I mean, I put in well over 20 hours in order to finish it. And for, that kind of like Metroidvania style, 2D Metroidvania style, that's pretty long. Like that's twice as long as a lot of the ones that I think of. I'm thinking of, like Metroid 2, like Samus Returns. The remake, whatever, of ones that I've played recently. Of course, you have your Hollow Knight that has tons of, DLC and extra areas and stuff like that. So I guess it would be more towards that end of the spectrum. Anyways, I really liked it. I will say there were lots of collectibles that just kind of like gave you more of the story and background. It is a very interesting setting, Prince of Persia, because, hey, it's set in Persia. There's characters talking about King Darius, stuff like that. So it's interesting in that I had no like obviously I know Darius from the scripture, when he comes in Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
So I know just tangentially, kind of the region and stuff like that, but I don't know much of the mythological figures and lore and stuff like that. There is lots of lore within the game that I could not be bothered to read paragraphs on paragraphs of different things that were going on. So a lot of the stuff within the game kind of went over my head in terms of deep lore. Like I got the overall, story premise, whatever. Gameplay is fantastic. There were some really cool things that you can do in the game that is different than your typical, like, I want to say you don't get the double jump until at least 2/3 of the way into the game. Like that comes quite a bit later. You get this one mechanic where you can basically not copy yourself, but hit a button and there's like a frozen version of yourself. You can go do something else and you hit that button and you go back, you warp back to that point, which really comes in handy during fights because the game is quite difficult. I'd say on the level of like a Hollow Knight or something like that. Maybe not quite as difficult as Hollow Knight, but it's definitely pushing in that realm as opposed to some easier ones. So anyways, I'm rambling a bit too much. I really liked the game. Even though I did not, I didn't go through every nook and cranny. I didn't understand a lot of, again, kind of the deeper lore and backstory to a lot of it. I don't think you have to in order to enjoy the game. I was kind of ready for the game to be done just because it was longer than I expected it to be, but I had a blast playing it. So it is quite a good game. I do think it's a shame that it didn't do very well sales wise, but it is quite good. So I enjoyed it quite a bit. So the next game that I started up just the other day, and it's another game that I found is surprisingly good, is The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom. So this is the one where you actually play as Zelda. And I had heard like, oh yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's done in the style of the Link's Awakening remake that was on Switch. So it's that kind of, I don't remember what it's called, but the
Do they call it Toy Box?
Toy. Yeah. That makes sense. It's done in that style. But I've noticed, and I haven't gotten very far, so maybe this is just kind of like early impression stuff. It has left a very good impression on me. And again, maybe it's because my expectations were a bit lower. Like I heard this, it's not going to blow your socks off, but it's a fun game kind of a thing. And it is different because you're not, you don't have a sword. There's asterisk by that if you play the game, But basically, the way you're attacking enemies is by conjuring up other versions of enemies that you've had that you have kind of in your arsenal. You're not directly attacking stuff. It is much more puzzle oriented. You're creating different things that you've already come in contact with, like rocks and stools and things like that, in order to get to different areas. It is just a very different experience within the same kind of Legend of Zelda world, and I'm enjoying it a lot. The music is really good. It's very whimsical, and man, yeah. So far, I'm really digging it. It is very puzzle heavy, and I can feel, at least at the point that I'm at now, the influence from the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom style of Zelda games into this kind of like old school, the previous version of Zelda, because really this is kind of the original version of type of overworld kind of Zelda, but there's some light crafting elements in it. You get a mechanic pretty early on in the game where you can grab things, sort of like your, Master Hand or whatever in Tears of the Kingdom. So I'm feeling a lot of influence from that as well. But again, very puzzle heavy. There's little like dungeon areas that are like mini dungeons, sort of like in the Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom style. Not the huge. There are huge dungeons. I've only played through one of them, but there are a lot smaller ones also. Anyways, I'm really enjoying my time with it. I might get sick of it later. I might, I take it with a grain of salt, but it has made a very good first impression on me, because I was kind of on the fence. I've played Zelda games that I don't enjoy. I own Spirit Tracks, and I've put like 2-3 hours into it and haven't gone back because I just didn't like it. And so I was kind of on the fence of like, yeah, I've heard it's good, but I've also heard it's okay because it's not the same. And I'm digging. It's not on the same level as other Zelda games. It's a different type of game, but I'm enjoying what it is. So that's what I've been playing since I finished up The Lost Crown, Prince of Persia. I do get a -1 for that on the beatdown score, so I'm currently sitting at -6 for the year so far. That's where I'm at.
Cool. Yeah. As far as like what I've been playing, it's kind of the same. Oh my goodness. I just hit the wrong buttons.
Oh no. Buttons are gone.
I was trying to like cycle through tabs and I hit the wrong thing. 1 second. I got to I don't even understand what I just did there. Oh no.
It's all gone. It's almost like it was destined to leave.
Well,
right before your but hopefully it'll return or something like that.
Somehow I managed to turn on Steam Big Picture mode, and I'm just going like, wow, what the heck here is like.
Are you trying to pull up Final Fantasy 14?
No.
Is that it? Oh, okay.
You keep spoiling this stuff. I'm like, hold on. This is insane. Oh,
I don't even
I
know
have
what you did.
no idea how that, like, anyways. Jeepers cats. That's awesome radio where I'm just like, hey, I'm just acting like a total boomer. I don't know how any of this works. I clicked on the wrong thing, and next thing I was so I've been playing a few things. Obviously Destiny 2, which boy. RIP, and to the community at large, you all need to calm down. Like, it's okay. We'll be fine. I'm sure that we'll be fine. There's news about that, and I think I'm probably going to talk about that in an upcoming headlines and hot takes, or maybe
you've heard it already,
or maybe you've heard, sort of looking at the timeline. You probably already, if you've listened to the headlines and hot takes for the month of May, you will have heard this, or heard some of my thoughts about it. So I'm playing Destiny 2. It's just like, that's like kind of my comfort food game. I'm trying to sort of be a little more intentionally social when I play it. One of the other things, though, I'm trying to, like, Link's Awakening. It's so funny because that's like the remake is like, I've been trying to get through that for quite some time. And it's like, we actually have an episode at some point in time in the semi nearish future that we're going to be doing on it. So it's like, I just want to beat the game and be done with it at this point in time. So like, I have been kind of like dancing around that. In addition, I've embraced this like pick 3 thing, and I'll talk about that at some point. Like, I've talked a little bit, but it's like, I'm not counting like social games like Destiny 2, or if like I do co-op with friends or something on something like, I've like, that stuff it's kind of like different. That's more like I'm just hanging out with the boys.
Sure.
But, on that list, and you might get a little bit of a tickle out of this, but it's like Link's Awakening, Returnal, and then so I swapped some stuff out, but Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is on that list too.
Yes.
And so it's one game, a podcast game, and then it's a locked and loaded game, and then it's just like kind of like whatever I feel like is like filling the third slot. And as I knock stuff off the list, like I'll just sub other things in, but like that's the criteria. So like once I'm done with Link's Awakening, I think I might actually pivot to Tunic. I don't know, but anyways,
nice.
We'll worry about that. Anyways, I'm just, like I said, I keep hitting wrong buttons. I'm losing my mind here. But yeah, and just sort of like, and it's sort of, it's one of those things where I was listening to, I think I was listening to Summon Sign, and they started talking about Final Fantasy 14. And every single time I hear this game get talked about, people are like, it's the best story. It's the best Final Fantasy story. And I'm like, okay, which I'm kind of like, I'm having a little bit of like a Final Fantasy existential crisis where it's just, I realize that since 9, I've played, but haven't beaten a single Final Fantasy. And I'm like, do I even like Final Fantasy? I'm not sure that I do. But anyways, it's kind of one of those things where there's kind of been a bit of a saga, because like you can check out Final Fantasy 14. They have this free trial, and it's like, and you can play up to 80, like level 80 on it. And it's a bunch of the DLC for free. Funny thing is, if you have a pre-existing Square Enix account, which I did, I never remembered signing up for, but apparently I did sign up for one. And you can't take advantage of that. So I have to create a new Square Enix account, because that's super fun. Because I was like, why does this say I only have like 4 days left to play? And then I did some Googling. Anyways, but you can play a substantial amount of Final Fantasy 14 for free. And so my brother and I were kind of like, well, like, hey, I'll kind of jump in and maybe we can dabble and sort of like see if this is worth something, like worth like sticking with for a little bit. Just kind of
just a little bit.
just a little bit. Well, and this will probably like if it does like sort of stick, it'll probably sort of take the place of like Destiny 2 for a while.
Yeah.
That'll kind of be like, again, it'll be like my comfort food, sort of like sitting in the background burning game, but also like that entire experience has just been like, oh boy, there's been a lot of hassle. So I don't know, maybe that's a sign. But yeah, so that's kind of what I've been playing is like Link's Awakening, Returnal, Destiny 2, sort of fiddling with Final Fantasy 14 around the edges. But I had some birthday money. And so I did, I was kind of like, I was like getting a little bit of like it was burning a little bit of a hole in a pocket. And I was talking to Parker and he came, one of the times he came on here, he talked about that game Mini Shoot Adventure, which is like and so that went on sale, but then, and so I snapped that up, but then he also told me about this game. He's like, Nate, he's like, I really think this is Nate bait. He's like, it's very kind of like near Returnal coded in the fact that it's kind of like a 3D first person bullet hell type game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I like those, and it's getting really good reviews. I think on Open Critic, it's sitting at like 81, which is pretty good. It kind of came out of nowhere. It's available on Game Pass, and he had played a little bit of it and he was like, I think you'd really like this. And he's like, it's $30. So like I said, I used some pretty much the remainder of my birthday money to pick those two up. And so I gave myself a +2. I have not beaten anything since the last time I beat anything, which I think was Absolum. And I was at a -1, but with the +2 from the acquisitions, I'm sitting at a +1. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm gearing up to like sort of start knocking some stuff out, but we'll see. I also like to talk a good game and not always play good games. Which, speaking of playing good games, that's not something we did for this podcast, this episode. But sort of before
that's
we
the
get
whole point.
That was the whole point. And it's like, you know what, and we'll sort of explore this a little bit, but it's like, this is kind of an experiment that I've been wanting to run in the background for a while. And this was sort of like the provocation. And it's like, you're the only one, John, like I have to give you your props here. You're the only one that was like committed and like, I'm going to do this thing. And because you did it, I'm actually just going to like, I'm not going to let John suffer alone. Like I'll share in this. I will finish the game. Like I'm saying that now, but
okay. All right.
I'm not going to like it because but anyways, we'll talk about that a little bit more here shortly. But, so, kind of moving on here, if this is your first time listening to the show, checking the show out on YouTube or whatever, and you're saying, what is this like -1, +1? We run a meta all year long. It's called the Backlog Breakdown. It's basically sort of a little bit of a meta game to help us prioritize playing what we already own and incentivizing us to like at least sort of think about purchases with a little more intention. The rules are pretty simple. There's some nuance, but when you buy games, you take positive points. When you beat games, you take negative points. You want to go into the negatives. You want to get as low as possible. And it's like, if that sounds interesting, we did technically finalize the 2026 rules. There was a little bit of language in regards to how we treated free games from developers and publishers. But yeah, so yeah, you can find that in our Discord. You can reach out to us and, we'll get you a copy of those. Other things that you might want to check out that we would probably enjoy you checking out is it's this podcast. We have a Patreon like so many other podcasts. And for as little as $1 a month, you get early and uncut access to each and every episode. You have access to us in the Patreon. You like Josh and I, you have a little bit more access to each one of us in the Patreon. In our Discord, there's a dedicated, channel for the brochachos. That's what we call you. There's a brochacha, a patron only a podcast called The Bro Hang. It tends to be a little more just free form, a little more stream of consciousness kind of thing. And all of our patrons, as like with what we're doing tonight, all of our patrons get to help have a much more active hand in the shaping of the podcast. So patrons can nominate games. Those games are voted on. And then the ones that end up winning the votes, we play and we do an episode on. Patrons can, also jump in on, topics, all sorts of stuff. So if any of that sounds appealing to you for as little as $1 a month or more, if you want to give us more, and you like what we're doing here and you're looking for a way to partner with us, that's an easy way to do it. So yeah, if that sounds cool, check it out. Other things that you might want to check out. We, alongside our friends, Wesley Ray, the Hench Dad himself, Paul Lytle, aka the Techno Funk Boy. Oh my goodness. I was doing really well. And then but our friend Paul Lytle, the Techno Funk Boy, Nicholas Porch, aka Porcho, aka the Wonder from Down Under, and Quick Mark, from the podcast formerly known as 11.5 Minutes to talk about video games, now known as Quick Play. They all make content wrestling with the idea of playing well. We love these guys. We love their stuff. And we think that you'll, if you like us, you might like some of their stuff too. So here's a word from one of them.
Howdy folks, I'm Mark, host of the podcast called Quick Play, subtitled Short Talks About Video Games. It's a little bit of time each week to talk about something that we're into. Video games. I bring on all sorts of smart, witty, talented guests to ask questions and make connections on trends in games, the industry, particular games themselves, anything that comes to mind. It's lean, green, and never really all that mean. And ultimately, it's a launch pad for you sweet little baby listener, to ask questions and make connections in your own conversations. And if you just got here by skipping 30 seconds ahead, then you'll love Quick Play. It's a little podcast trying to ask big questions. Listen wherever you listen to podcasts or watch on YouTube. See you there.
And we're back. So tonight, folks, I thought John and I have known each other for quite a few years at this point in time, and I thought he was my friend, but I was wrong. I think he hates me. I think he either hates me or he hates you, Josh. Maybe he hates himself, or maybe it's all of the above.
Well, let's go with that last option.
But as a patron pick, and this was kind of like, it was like one of those things where I was like amused and befuddled by this, but your patron nomination was Lord of the Ring Gollum. And it actually ended up like getting enough votes to very confidently be an episode. And so, and that's the thing is like, we've kind of talked about it, is like Josh and I did not beat this game prior to tonight for many, many reasons. And we'll talk about some of that, but
we will.
And I did very foolishly sort of right before, we wrapped up the first half, say like, you know what, like, I'm just going to go back and I'm going to I'm just going to work on like chip damage with this thing and play a little bit at a time. And by the end of the year, I will have beaten it. I won't have liked it. Cause it's like, and we'll talk about it, but it's like, yeah, it's a thing. It's not great. It's one of those things where this game, what's so interesting about this game is that there has been a very interesting discourse and none of it positive since the reveal of this thing, like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Like I remember seeing the original trailers and everybody was like, dude, this does not look good. And then it gets a little bit further on and we're like, why is Tommy Pickles starring in a Lord of the Rings game? And then it's like, and then it releases and it's one of the worst games that in recent history. And it's kind of weird because it's a game that, the Lord of the Ring license is probably not cheap. And this thing as like, I don't think people make bad games on purpose, but then this thing was made and I'm like, I don't understand it. Mm-hmm. But all that being said, I've got like I've got the ESRB rating here pulled up, and we'll just talk about it. It's like, as far as like content warnings, just so everybody knows, this is rated T for teen, and the content descriptors include mild blood, mild language, and some violence. So, and the overview here says that developed by Daedalic Entertainment and published by Nacon, The Lord of the Rings Gollum is an action adventure title set in Middle Earth where players take on the role of Gollum on a quest to retrieve the One Ring. The game features third-person stealth gameplay, cave-like mortar environments, and dialogue choices that influence interactions with characters. It's available on Windows, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, the Switch, Xbox One, and Xbox Series S and X. There is no, and again, sort of that game's, the T rating reflects its fantasy action adventure setting with no extreme violence or explicit language, but does include some blood, imagery, mild profanity, and stealth-based killing mechanics. So that's like all the content warning type stuff. It's kind of one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's not really too much of a surprise or anything there, but I think that's kind of one of those, like, you know, and I think, again, even though we didn't beat it, like, yeah, it's like, yeah, there's nothing, yeah, content wise, there's no serious problems.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I don't recall anything at all. I mean, was there language?
No,
I honestly,
I mean, maybe like orc cursing, maybe.
Okay, there is,
but it's not English. It's like they're like they're grunting and they're
gotcha.
Saying, like,
yeah.
They're like using some weird like snarly thing. But yeah. They're definitely calling you not nice things, but again, Orcish is not a very nice language. Orcs are not very nice. So, but yeah, so we've got that out of the way. But John, I do kind of have a question, and Josh, you have it framed a little differently. You have, but why though? And I would just say, like, yeah, I'm kind of, I think I have some ideas, but like, why did you pick this game? I think that's an interesting question to sort of like get things going here. Like, why did you pick Lord of the Ring Gollum?
I mean, I think you already outlined it, that I hate all three of us. To answer seriously, from the moment I heard about this game, I mean, I love Lord of the Rings, and that's no secret to anybody that's ever talked to me about it. But like from the moment I saw Gollum, I was like, why would you even imagine making a game where Gollum is the main protagonist? Like, to me, that's just like the most uninteresting character to be the main protagonist. I don't know. I just thought that sounded kind of weird and boring. But, you know, and then obviously once it got released, just like all the terrible reviews, everything from like the character design and the gameplay and the story, and just, I guess it got to the point where, you know, when we were having the nominations for this year for Patreon picks, it just, I started to think, you know, I kind of would be curious to play this game to see how bad it really is, to see if it's as bad as everybody says. And I was like, you know, that's a great Patreon pick. I've never played it. It's a terrible game, which is kind of unique. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna throw this out there to have other people suffer with me in playing this bad game. And also, I don't usually go out of my way to play games that are, you know, well known to be bad games, because I like to enjoy the video games I play, and I like them to be fun. This game was neither of those things. So,
like a little counterproductive there.
So it was kind of curiosity, and just, I guess, the idea of it. Whenever people nominate Patreon games, I've never seen anybody purposely nominate a bad game. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to be the first to do that, and let's see what happens.
Well, and what's kind of interesting too is, like, I've talked about it probably on the podcast at different times, but I have toyed with the notion of playing bad games like every once in a while, because I think sometimes the modern dialogue is like, people want to call a game that's like a 7 or a 6, where it's like, you know, it's actually a pretty decent game. There might be, like, it might not be awesome, but it's a pretty decent. They're like, this game sucks. And it's like, you don't know what a sucky game, like, you don't know what a bad game is. you know. And so, but then when you're playing like Lord of the Ring Gollum, I'm like, oh no, like now I do. And it very much harkens back to, and I think Josh, you and I have sort of talked about this, I think, but it harkens back to like sort of the license slop of like the 80s and 90s, where like there were a bunch of games where it was like, this is not a good game, but it's like, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Like the one licensed game that I can think of is like, there was a Batman game for like the NES that was actually kind of cool.
Yeah. There were some good ones. One that comes to mind for me, which don't ask me why, but I just remember friends having it as a kid, of like the Men in Black TV show. There was a Game Boy Color game, you know, and it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's also not great. There was a Jackie Chan Adventures game on Game Boy Advance. You know what I mean? Like those types of games. And actually those aren't the worst of the bunch, because there's so much on like Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, like any Simpsons game from the 90s, you know, any Simpsons game on Super Nintendo.
I was going to say,
like
dude,
licensed.
like the Simpsons arcade game was like,
that
ruled.
Absolutely. That one's great. But like, you know, Bart's Nightmare on Super Nintendo is one that comes to mind, that like was always at the store. Like you could always rent it if you wanted to, because it was just, it's not a good game. You know, Beavis and Butthead, stinking, what is that? Why can't I think of it? Party on, Wayne. Party on, Garth.
Wayne's World.
What is that called? Wayne's World. There you go. I even said Wayne. There was a Super Nintendo game of Wayne's World. You know, like that kind of just like, this was only made because there's a pop culture license, but the game itself really had nothing to do with it. So yeah, that stuff was prevalent. Gosh, I'd say even into my teenage years. You know, there were Ben 10 video games. I mean, there's still a
lot of
Paw
license.
Patrol, you know,
stuff. Yeah, well, and it's like the Bluey game came out.
Yeah,
and it's fine. It's like, it's not great. It's not really. But so it's like, and that's kind of, it's only been within the last few years that games with licenses sort of like that's sort of been turned around. And like one of the biggest ones was like, going back to Batman, was the Arkham trilogy. Like, and those games sort of, I think, did a lot of heavy lifting to sort of restore oh no, licensed games can be kind of awesome. I mean, like we even have within the Lord of the Rings franchise, we have Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War, which are, you know, pretty beloved in as general rules. Like they're like, these games are great.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, there were a lot of really good licensed games, even in that NES era, you know, like the Disney games and stuff like that. DuckTales, you know, is one of the best games on the console. So it's not as though every licensed game is terrible. It is 90% of licensed games from that era are terrible. And so, yeah, so it's not new to have a good licensed game. It's just rare. And I think feels more along the lines of that. Just kind of slop that came out, which is funny because that's more of a newer term that we use, but that's certainly how this game feels.
Well, I think what it is that like licensed games as a general rule, I think companies have been a lot savvier, like, and we've had way like licensed games as a general rule recently have just been better. But it's like, I mean, from the get-go, this thing, it's kind of like everybody's been kind of side-eyeing it. And then the more we saw of it, the less I was like, and it was kind of funny because when we were in the Dear Critics, I'm still there because it's the Fantasy Critic League that matters. But like, you know, when Marshall drafted that one year, and I was like, dude, don't do this. Like, normally I'm just like, I'm going to let people like take, like, you know, it's like whatever. But I was like, you don't want this game, dude. I'm telling you, this is not going to go well. And it was like, I can't even, I'm going to like Google this. Cause it was like, it was just, it's very not good. Let's see here. Yeah, it's sitting right now on OpenCritic at a 37. It is yeah, it's got some ones, some twos, a 2 out of 10, a 1 out of 5. It's just like, it's just one of those games that came out and just like the dialogue around it was really pretty not great.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, well, and that's interesting too. I don't know if we want to go there right now, but I would not give this game a 1 or a 2 out of 10. I wouldn't. I'd give it higher than that. I would not give it a 7. You know, talking about sevens. I mean, I don't know if, yeah, again, I don't know if we want to necessarily go there right now, but I'm leaning more towards like a 3 or 4 out of 10. It's not one seems unplayable to me, you know, like actively offensive.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where just the highest score in a lot of, like, I'm seeing a 7.5 or 75. But
okay.
The bulk of the scores are
soul.
Like 5, 4, 3, that territory, where it's like there's and it's one of those things. Even when I've talked about it with friends, it's like, I don't know that I really call this a game. I would call it a game-shaped object. It's like, it has like all the form and the function of a game, but none of the actual like charm or magic. And I think it's one of those things too, where it's like, it's very playable. It's in the sense that, like, it works as a general rule. It doesn't work well, but it works. Like, you know, it controls the movement is like fine, but it's not good. It's not like you press the stick and like Gollum goes flying off, you know, into the distance or anything. Like, it's not like obscenely broken in that way. It's like, it actually just kind of works, but none of it's put together very well. And it's like, and it sort of actually suffers like the biggest problem too, is like, it's just boring. And actually my thesis is like, I was kind of sharing this with you guys, is like, I just think the game's lazy. It's got all of these, it feels very much like a beta.
Yeah.
Or it feels very much like a draft and not a finished project or product. But the other thing is that it kind of feels like something where they were making it and they said, that's good enough. You know, it's like, well, hey, you know, he moves and he doesn't like, you know, go like careening off in the distance. Cool.
Right.
You know, next. And the level design, like all of the different criteria, it just kind of, and one of the other things though, is that there are some interesting ideas, but they don't do anything with them. I mean, and we can get into some of the details there, but there are things in this game where there's a pretty obvious question, like, why is this even in here? You know, but it's just one of those, it's one of those things where it's kind of like, this game raises a lot of questions. And I think, and again, to sort of go back, but why though? And so one of the things is like, why this game? Like, what? I could like, here's what I would say is, I can actually see, I could imagine sitting in a boardroom where if you told me you wanted to make a stealth action sort of escape game starring Gollum from the Lord of the Rings movie with like some parkour and sort of like stealth navigation and using that framing, there's a way that you could pitch that. And I think that sounds actually pretty cool. You know, I like stealth games. I like the idea of having to escape from a hostile territory. You know, it's that I was like, hey, this could work. Yes, Gollum is probably the least appealing character in the Lord of the Rings universe. But especially giving the framing where it's like where this game is set up, to sort of play within the canon of the Lord of the Rings games, because this game takes place during the time, where Gollum was, in the books, we talked about this right before we actually got on here, but in the books, Gandalf relates the story that he found Gollum. Like, he went searching for Gollum, he found Gollum, and he was like, and when he found him, he was being held in Mirkwood, but he had been a prisoner in Mordor, and he had escaped, and Gandalf was trying to, again, he was trying to see what information Gollum had spilled to Sauron, or to the orcs, to Mordor. And that's the backdrop of this game. And that's kind of compelling. That's like, hey, this is an interesting use of these characters. This is an interesting setup. And I think there's a lot of that stuff where I look at it and I'm like, hey, why not? Like, that could be a good idea. And if you give me the right kind of pitch, I'm like, I can see potential here. It was like, you have Gollum, who is a creature that he's nimble. So you could have, again, some like agility, parkour type elements, so where you're doing a lot of climbing around and jumping around, and like movement's fun. Like, good movement in games is fun. So, okay, like, hey, we've got sort of an interesting, like leg, pillar here. Stealth mechanics are fun, when they're done well. It's like, so I don't know. Again, it's like, to me, I could sit in a boardroom. I can imagine being in a boardroom listening to this pitch and saying, that doesn't sound terrible. But, it's obviously like the look on your face, you're like, you don't agree.
So, yeah. There's a couple things is that I do. Yes. A stealth game for Gollum makes sense up into a point. I don't think parkour, you use the word nimble. Gollum is not, at least in The Hobbit, he is not described as nimble. He can barely see, for one thing, or he can see. No, he can see in the dark, and it's Bilbo who can't see. I apologize. But he's not, at least in my recollection, he's not nimble. He's like, looking all around for his ring. He's freaking out, whatever. I don't get the idea that he's quick on his feet. I get the idea that he's slinking in dark crevices, and so he can get around, yes, but almost like a sewer dweller, as opposed to someone who's gonna run up the side of a wall, and do parkour stuff. Like, that is a bridge too far. As someone who enjoys the books, that does not sound like Gollum. Gollum sounds like, slinking in the dark, in the crevices, stuff like slow stealth sounds more like Gollum's character to me. But John, do you what do you think about that? Because you said you're a big fan of Lord.
I guess I hadn't really thought of it from that point of view. I mean, I guess in reading the books, I can't really think of any time where Gollum was particularly described that way, like as climbing around. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's more so like a movie thing, where he's kind of more quick on his feet and climbs around more. I honestly, I hadn't given that point of view any thought.
Sure.
Sure. But yeah, I would also kind of push back on what Nate says. I mean, I can see how someone might make that pitch, but to me, I'm still just like, why? Like, there's so many other things you could have chosen. Why this?
Well, I think the thing is, like, it hasn't been done. What are we going to make? Another sword and board? Like here's the thing, and this is what I will give them, is they're going off the beaten path. They're using the title in a way that it's like, okay, yeah, we have Shadow of War, we have Shadow of Mordor, right? But like here, it's like we're gonna explore this property in a unique way, and just to sort of like say, ChatGPT. I asked ChatGPT. I said like, "Hey, is Gollum, according to Tolkien, supposed to be agile?" And I'm going to like, I don't know. It's also ChatGPT, so whatever. But yes, Gollum is generally portrayed as extremely agile, especially compared to normal humans or hobbits. In the Lord of the Rings books and the film trilogy, he's shown climbing steep rocks and trees quickly, crawling and squeezing through tight spaces, moving silently and rapidly, swimming well, and surviving in harsh environments for long periods. Tolkien describes him as wiry, sneaky, and almost animal-like after centuries of corruption from the One Ring. Despite being physically small and emaciated, he's surprisingly fast and strong for his size. So, yeah.
Okay. I could stand corrected. That's still, that feels a little weird to me. Even it said that he swims well. Again, I'm thinking of the Hobbit, where he's like paddling along in a little
I remember that
canoe.
like I not too long ago, like reading it, and I think Tolkien even kind of goes out of his way to describe that as like Bilbo almost didn't see, like when like Bilbo lost track of him or something when he was like paddling his little like log canoe thing. And like the way I remember specifically the way Tolkien describes that as being like exceptionally skillful, not like clumsy or splashing around, but like, oh no, he's like, so I'm just, like I said, I'm not saying it's the best idea, but I think like, hey, like given all the framing, I actually think there's a lot of potential with this idea. Again, like I like stuff like you could make this, like, I'm kind of like thinking of this as sort of almost in the lines of like, if you get something that's sort of along the lines qualitatively, like Dishonored, like if you get something like almost like immersive sim stealthy kind of thing, and you really lean into some of those systems, I think you actually have a really compelling loop here. I think the problem though is that none of that happened. None of that happened.
You are also kind of pushing a boulder uphill here because one, Gollum isn't, like John said, he's not the most likable character. You know how he ends, right? And if this story is going to have to be fit, like if you already know the beginning of the story and the end of the story, the beginning being, he gets caught. If you know that's what's going to happen at the beginning, and you know the end is that he's going to end up in Mirkwood, you have to play within those confines and do something compelling within that, with a character that's not very likable. He's not going to uncover some magical abilities.
I don't think he needs to, though. I think like, I think that's sort of overselling. I think like it's just one of those, to me, there's an interesting, I'm not saying, I think you can make a fairly interesting game for 8 to 10 hours. You set the boundaries. And again, if the gameplay is good, I think that's the problem though, is that the gameplay is not good. Like that. And again, it's like coulda, shoulda, woulda. Like, I don't think you need to have some amazing story. I don't think you need to have some, I think it's just like for people who enjoy the Lord of the Rings lore, this could have been a really interesting diversion if it had been handled appropriately, if it had been handled well. It was not.
Yeah. And that, so what are some of the things then that kind of stick out to you about the game that was done poorly? Because we've all acknowledged like it's not an absolutely broken mess of a video game, right? Like is there anything throughout your playtime that kind of, again, sticks out or that you remember, it maybe even kind of goes against that grain?
Well, John, you have the most experience, so why don't you sort of like kick us off here?
Well, I mean, yeah, like you said, we already touched on it being boring. I guess that's
the cardinal sin.
Like, there really wasn't anything that was particularly compelling about playing it. But like it wasn't the most. It had some glitches, yeah, but like it wasn't the glitchiest game I've ever played. Like it wasn't unplayable. Like like Nate said, it was a game shaped thing. it functioned as a game, but like it's just a matter of was it enjoyable, and the answer to that is obviously no. The character design was one thing that really kind of bugged me. Gollum was absolutely. It just was awful. He looked so terrible. And the way I'm not sure if you noticed, like where the characters walked, they like were very stiff-legged.
Yeah. And
it looked really janky. Yeah. And like Gollum's eyes were like ginormous and just I didn't like the character design at all. I like everything from the way the orcs looked, the way the elves looked, it all just kind of looked terrible in my opinion.
Yeah.
And the voice acting for the most part really wasn't great either. I did not like the voice actor for Gollum. I don't think that he fit the character very well.
Okay.
But I guess like in terms of like issues I had, not necessarily with the gameplay, but like just the game itself. I'm not sure if you had this issue, but like for me, there were certain areas where it was like super dark, and like I would max out the brightness and I could not see. And like, I was maybe it was just me, maybe it was my TV. Eventually I had to mess with some settings on my TV and I got it to work. But like I've never had it where I maxed out the brightness on a game and it just would not, like I just could not see. So like I was just kind of like running in the dark. Like I hope I can make it through this section. But yeah, it was just really, I don't know what it was. Maybe I'm unique in that. But yeah, honestly, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. But yeah,
I will say I didn't have that experience with it being too dark, like overly dark, like that bad. But I will say in some of the videos that I've seen, it seemed as though the colors were more like the saturation was turned way up. Like it looked very different than what I was playing on my laptop. So I don't know. And I don't know if that's like a console thing versus a Steam thing. If there were updates afterwards or what, but I believe I watched someone play a bit of it on a PS4 and the color just like looked really weird. Like the skin looked really red and it just looked really weird compared to what looked more natural on my laptop. So I don't know. I didn't experience any particular, and I'm your standard player when it says, oh, adjust the brightness so you can just barely see this image. Like I don't do it to just barely. I want to actually, like I turn it up a bit brighter than it should be, basically, than they tell you to, just because I don't ever want to be in that position where, things are too dark or something jumps out at me, from the dark. Like, no, I want to be able to see that stuff. But yeah, I didn't experience it to that degree. I agree with you, especially, and we've said it on the podcast in previous episodes, especially in the beginning of the game, I was surprised at that it was not as bad as I had expected. That even just the setup and the introduction to the game, it's like, okay, yeah, this does feel like a game. And there was the occasional like, okay, I could see where you go. With modern games, it's tutorial for the first few levels because they're more complex. I get that. But it's like, okay, you can go somewhere with this. Like, okay, again, stealthing around. Like this is interesting. This is an interesting starting point. Let's see where it goes from here type deal. It just,
I think even just to sort of go back to what we were talking about before, though, asking the question, like, why would you make that game? It's like you said right there. It's like, this is an interesting starting point. There's something that is kind of mildly compelling about this, where it's not completely uninteresting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to derail too hard, but I'm saying like, no, even right there, it's like, that's the thing. Is like, there is something here that's like, this could be compelling.
I would compare it to the Mary Jane missions in Spider-Man.
Yeah, that was kind of something that popped into my head when I think earlier, maybe it was in the notes, you had mentioned like, it could have fit in as kind of like portion of another game.
Yes.
Like in that, like I would have viewed it exactly the same way as the Mary Jane missions. I hated those. They were such like they just like really like knocked, like they messed up the pace of the story in Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I could not stand those missions. They were just so boring and annoying. And it's like, I don't think I never met a person that's like, oh yeah, I love the side character missions in a game. But yeah, I think another problem with Lord of the Rings Gollum is it just, you're kind of doing either pointless tasks, like you said, when you're in Mordor, you're just like, go herd these random animals, and it's like, why?
It's because we told you to, great. And if you don't, the orcs are going to yell at you.
Or it was like, go collect these. I forget it was like, go collect these rocks or these worms in this lava area, or go tell these workers to go on break. And it's like, this is so stupid. Like, what am I doing here? And it's just like you're doing these mindless tasks over and over. And the other thing is, you basically do the exact same thing the whole game. You do random tasks, and then you escape, and then you do random tasks, and then you escape, and then you do random tasks, and then you escape. And it's just like a repeated cycle of doing it over and over again. So you do that in Mordor, and you're trying to sneak in around and doing the same tasks and trying to escape. And then you go to Mirkwood, and you're doing the same thing. The only part that was maybe a little different than those two was when you're in Shelob's lair.
Okay.
But even that, I mean, that is kind of just more so you're trying to get out and working through puzzles. So like, I guess in that aspect, there wasn't so much the random tasks as Mirkwood and Mordor.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. That could mean so many different things. Sorry for using that word. But the fact that it changes up, because I didn't get out of Mordor myself during my playtime. I watched some videos of some other stuff that happens in the game because I wanted to familiarize myself with it, but I just okay. I'll just come out and say it now, is that for me, I didn't get too far into the game because I found that I was not enjoying it. And so when I would sit, it felt like a chore to play the game, in that like, I don't have very much time to play video games. And so for this next half hour, do I really want to spend it playing a game? And so then when I would sit down and I would decide, like 8 times out of 10, it would be, no, I think I'd rather go read a book. Or I think I'd rather go, prep for the week, or, do these other tasks that are in the back of my mind. And so I found that like, it feels like I'm wasting my time playing this game, which I was on board for the experiment that you guys have said of like, oh, what's it like to play a bad game? I just found that I hit that too many times.
You hit your threshold real quick.
Exactly. Yes. I found that like, if I'm not going to have any enjoyment and it feels like a chore, and then I really ought to be using my time in other ways than really delving into this idea of playing a bad game. Now we can come back to that, because I do think the original thesis for playing a bad game, it does help calibrate what I think a bad game is, because now when I think of a game that I really dislike, like Final Fantasy VIII, it is not bad in the way that this game is bad. Does that make sense? It's bad because I didn't like what they did story-wise. Maybe the mechanics weren't as polished as I want them to be, but it's really not mechanically a bad game. It just was unsatisfying to me. Whereas this game is bad in its gameness. like the things that make it a game, you're saying a game-shaped object. The things that make it a game that you want to be hooked into, you want to enjoy, were not enjoyable. And so the things that I go to for a game, whether it's narrative or mechanics, were not good, and so it felt like a waste of time, and I don't want to waste my time because I don't have that much of it for leisure. So
I don't want to offer like up like too much of a defense for this game, but it's one of those things like, John, where you talked about like stylistically, Like it's kind of it. Gollum's design actually kind of reminded me of the Rankin and Bass Gollum.
Okay.
From the animated. Have you ever seen the animated Hobbit, John?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I grew up watching that.
Yeah. He actually kind of like the big eyes and like the weird, almost like frogginess, but it's also kind of like, it's also like the Temu version of the Lord of the Rings Gollum from the movies. And so it's almost like in my head, whenever I play the game, whenever it's like I have this construct that I've already come up with where it's, to me, you could make this game a lot more compelling if you leaned into a more heavily stylized, like instead of, because you're talking about the just the character models and the assets and the design language, and it feels very not even last gen. It's kind of like, it's kind of offensive because it's like they move weird, but they don't really look PS4 or PS3. They look almost like sort of this weird between PS2 and PS3 where it's like they're not good. And the real animated Gollum. Oh no, you stop. That's the worst. But so, and like, I'm just trying to make a case. So it's like where I think this game, if this is, you borrow way more heavily from, again, the Rankin and Bass kind of design language, and you make that sort of like your visual like Bible. And it's like, hey, this is the feeling we want to evoke. And then again, you have sort of better traversal, you have better movement, you have more interesting, because that's the thing. These things exist. There's a stealth system. It's just not good. It's, if you get into the shadows, you can basically become invisible or disappear, but it's not good. It's very, it's basic. It's very lazy. It's, it's kind of, again, it feels like every time I play the game, it's like, this feels like this is the bare minimum. We've done just enough to sort of justify this as a thing that exists, where it's like, hey, there's a level and here's how you get through the level, but none of it's compelling. There's no dopamine sort of like hit. It's like, you don't feel good when you do anything. Whereas, and again, I do think that it's something given to right. So like if Arcane were to have done something like this, I feel like that would be a really compelling game. That, but it's they didn't. I know it's weird, but in my head, there's almost an alternate universe where this game is good, and it's when I'm playing it, I'm like, hey, if you had pushed into this a little bit, like if you had, with a little bit more time, with a little bit more care, with a little bit more money and energy, I think they could have had something really interesting on their hands. Even though Gollum's not a likable character, there are lots of books I read or movies I watch where you're not supposed to like the character, and it's like, hey, there are games I play where I'm like, I don't like the main character. So all of that, like, I'm not trying to get too far off the beaten path here, but there's a reality where it's like some of those complaints, it's like, I think part of the reason we find it so jarring is because it's just, even in any sort of construct in our head, how this could work or should work, we're holding it up to the actual thing. And it just feels, again, going back to the Gollum thing, Gollum looks like Tommy Pickles from Rugrats, like, but with a serious meth addiction. And it's kind of one of those things where he's, again, the term I use, that he's the Temu version of the Lord of the Rings, the movie Gollum. And it's one of those things where they probably couldn't use because even the way they designed Gandalf, it's like you can tell he's Gandalf, but it's not Ian McKellen's Gandalf.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
Because they don't have the rights to likenesses and all that other stuff, but it's not like there's a whole bunch of stuff in there. I think though the thing, and I guess I'm saying all of this, is that I think part of the reason that this thing is so jarring is that, again, it functions as a game. Everything functions, but it doesn't do more than that. And so like the gameplay, it's like the platforming, it's 3D platforming. It's not good 3D platforming. It's functional, but it's not fun. It's like, it's there, it works. It's sort of, you can tick off the box, the stealth segments, the parkour segments, all of that stuff. It's like, it works, but not great. It's just kind of like, well, it feels a little baked or a little half baked, a little undercooked, little, just like I said, the thing that every time I play this game, it just feels lazy. Like it's like the game itself, when I'm playing it, it almost feels like, and again, I don't want to read too much intent into this, but this idea that it almost feels like the people who were making this didn't want to be making it. And so that kind of comes out in the way they built things. It's this idea where, and so when you're playing it, it almost forces you guys this question, like, why should I be playing this? It doesn't feel like you wanted to make this. It's kind of like the poorly written paper where it's like, I'm just writing this to get you off my back. It's like, I just made this thing to get my boss to shut up. And it's just, it's undercooked. It's half baked. It's lazy. I think.
Yeah. And yet, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's really like,
I was just going to say, and yet they still had the gall, to still make it anyways.
And it's like they got the license for the Lord of the Rings. Like it's kind of baffling. I don't know. And you hear about all kinds of things, within the games industry of games being canceled. I think of what is it? Hideki Kamiya had that one with Xbox with the dude with the dinosaurs, Scalebound.
Scalebound. Yeah.
So like games that were pretty far along, and that ended up getting Metroid Prime 4, was in development for quite a while before Nintendo scrapped it and gave it to Retro Studios. So you hear of some of these things. It seems as though that probably should have happened in the case of this game, because it just seems very odd to me, because I can't imagine it would be easy to get the license to the Lord of the Rings. And this is what they chose to do with it. Yeah, it's just a very, it's an odd artifact that this even exists for those reasons. But again, acknowledging that like it's not an unplayable mess. It's just not fun. Like I don't take any enjoyment in playing the game. So.
Yeah,
there have been other bad Lord of the Rings games. I understand that, but even post like the movies, it's just a very strange thing to do.
I don't know. I would say, I mean, I haven't played every Lord of the Rings game ever, but out of all the ones I've played, I mean, I guess there was one I played on Game Boy Advance. It was basically like a turn-based. I think it was like turn-based Fellowship of the Ring, which was kind of
okay.
I didn't really like it. I mean, I played it when I was a kid. Maybe I would enjoy it more now, but like, I don't know if it was something with the graphics or just, I don't know what it was, but I just didn't like it. I never really played it again. But every game I played outside of that, I've really enjoyed from Lord of the Rings. And this, like when I played this one, this is the one where I'm like 100% like, this is just not, I don't enjoy this. This does not make me feel good. I'm simply doing this because I'm determined to finish it.
Yeah.
But there was no sort of like, wow, this makes me love Lord of the Rings even more.
Right.
I can't say it made me. I can't say I hated it as much as I hated Rings of Power.
Okay.
I might put it like a slight notch above Rings of Power.
Would you rather?
But only slightly.
Oh man. So actually, that I'm curious then, John. How long did it take you to beat the game? Do you know how much time you put into it?
How many hours?
Yeah.
Oh man, I honestly I didn't look. I don't think it took me that long. I probably
felt like how long, way more.
It felt longer, yeah. Because it was just like, all right, when am I going to get to the next chapter? Please, please, may I be done already? I mean, part of the reason I think I was able to kind of just sit down and play through it is I played through a lot of it when I was in a temporary layoff status from work. So I had a little bit more time to actually just, all right, I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah.
But I probably beat it over the course of a few weeks, I think.
Okay.
Well, it didn't take me long.
And that, man, see that circumstance again. I dropped the game because I abandoned the game because it felt as though I was wasting my time and I don't have much of it. So it seems to me like that would be kind of the perfect circumstance. Like if I was sick for a weekend or something like that would be the time to blow through it. Although, you might just feel worse if you're sick. But like if you were really determined to play through the game, it seems like that circumstance, if I had a lot of time, basically that's what it comes down to. If I had more time, maybe. But
well, I think even in listening to it's the problem with this game, right? And we've stated this and restated this, but the core issue here is that the game feels like work. It doesn't feel like a game. You have to actually sort of gear yourself up to say like, nope, I'm gonna, like John, you're like, I'm just gonna push through it. Like you have to like hype yourself up, and that's so counter to what we actually, that's what we experience with games as a general rule. Like most of the time games it's like, I have a limited amount of time. I want to play games that are fun. I want this sort of, and that's even sort of the appeal. Like when we were talking about last episode, when we were talking about a game about digging a hole, one of the things we talked about is the fact that like it is just fun, and it takes something fairly mundane and it takes something fairly mundane and it makes it enjoyable. It gamifies it to pretty, a pretty large extent. It's pretty successful in how it gamifies that and how it leverages those systems and the loops and everything else. Whereas Gollum takes what should kind of be fun, sneaking around the caves in the mines of Mordor, escaping from the orcs, 15 hours. Holy moly.
I don't think it took me that long.
Sure.
I don't think that's factoring in like being on pause.
Yeah.
But maybe it did take me that long. I don't know. Anyways, I wasn't trying to derail you.
No, but it's that juxtaposition there where, again, video games as a general rule, they tend to do this thing where they even Stardew Valley, etc. They take what is in reality pretty mundane and they present it to you in a package that's not just mundane, it's enjoyable. Whereas like Gollum kind of does the opposite, where the idea of crawling around in Middle Earth, escaping the orcs, there should be tension there. There should be, it's like you could almost picture this as sort of not a horror game, but at least at the very least suspense. And I think that's the thing, is they never, it should be kind of, I think about those games like Outlast, where it's like the horror games where it's like you just have to like run away or like
sure.
But you could do something comparable to this. Like there's an alternate universe in my head where I'm like, this game could have been interesting, but none of the effort was expended on it. And I think that's the thing where we're kind of talking about, like, it's hard to categorize why this game is bad. It's hard to definitively, because it's like you play it for an hour and you're like, oh, I get it. Like Josh, like you played it for 2-3 hours maybe. And you're like, oh, I get it. I played it for 2 or 3 hours and I'm like, nope, I get it, because it's not actively bad. It's just incredibly dull, incredibly undercooked, incredibly underdeveloped. It's lazy and it's boring, and it doesn't do any of the things that a game is supposed to do. It's actually one of the things that's hard to talk about, like hard about talking about this, is that we have lots of ways to talk about the things we enjoy in games, but we don't spend a lot of time talking about the things we don't enjoy in games. And so it's almost like our vocabulary is pretty stunted. We're just like, it's bad. Well, how is it bad?
Mm-hmm.
It's boring. Okay. Well, why is it boring? It's boring because it doesn't do anything with the setting that's interesting. It doesn't play well. It doesn't play badly. It just doesn't play well. Like it, again, it's that function is there without the spirit of the thing.
And you said, like, maybe if it was, something scary or something along those lines, that would definitely ratchet up the tension. I don't know that narratively, or as someone is a fan of Tolkien, I don't know that you really could do that, because Gollum has an end, and he's going to survive this, so that kind of undercuts the idea that there's really going to be stakes throughout this game, because when playing this game, dying means nothing. It might mean going back a little bit, and when it does, that can be frustrating. Don't get me wrong, when you have to make some like crazy long jumps and whatever, and then it sends you back earlier in the level, that can be frustrating. However, by and large, like a lot of the times I found that if I fell down into the lava, like it just puts you back up on the ledge that you were at before, to where dying was very inconsequential. And so then then it takes away all tension, and it just becomes a bit of a chore, like you talked about.
The only stakes, or I guess tension there is the side characters. I mean, it's so inconsequential, it really doesn't matter. But some of the side characters you interact with, your actions can either lead to their death or them surviving.
Okay.
So like, for example, you have, I'm not sure if you got along where you met the frail man or whatever, the old Spanish sounding dude.
Yeah.
Which just does not fit at all in Tolkien lore. Just this Spaniard in Mordor. It doesn't make sense.
With the beard that like curls up back up into his mouth.
Your actions can impact whether or not he survives.
Okay.
When you're escaping Mordor, there's another character you can that you're basically helping escape, and he's helping you escape, and your actions can impact whether he survives or not. Okay. And then once you get to Mirkwood, it's the same thing again. So in that sense, there's like these inconsequential characters that do not exist in larger Tolkien lore, but your actions do impact what happens to them in the story.
Okay.
But even there, the stakes, it's one of those things where this is sort of an encapsulation of the entire experience, though, because you're sort of talking, there's this, well, hey, you can save this person, but none of it's written compellingly enough to like for you to care about that. Yeah. The execution of the character models, it's like, Josh, you talked about how the dude's beard just like flips back up into his face. I saw that part and I was like, oh, that's neat. But it's sort of, and again, it's sort of the snapshot of this game is just like the squandered potential. Like there's interesting ideas sort of like peppered throughout this, where it's like, hey, there's even like a morality thing where it's like, will you do the Smeagol thing or will you do the Gollum thing? But it has no like long-standing impact. It's like, oh well, he's a little bit nicer, and it's like none of these things affect the game in a holistic way. Like, hey, and again, it's the shallowness of the design here, where it's this game in a lot of ways is very linear, like very linear. It's like, here's the expected outcome. There's no exploration. There's no like sort of where, again, in my head, if you built this almost as a bit of an immersive sim stealth escape type game, it's like, hey, saving somebody that could help you later down the road,
Yeah.
Or you could offer them up as a sacrifice to create a diversion or whatever. But the interactions it's like this character that you talk to a little bit. It's like, it doesn't mean anything. And just like, even with the Smeagol and Gollum stuff, it's like, I can see a reality where it's like, hey, if you favor the Smeagol type decisions, that opens up sort of an ability suite where maybe, hey, you're better at hiding, scavenging, like you get like things like, even there, like putting in like sort of a survival element where, hey, you have to eat so often or whatever. And because Gollum's a good forager, like, he finds the fish in the mountain pond.
Oh, tasty, sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go, buddy.
Yeah.
But, or if you lean into the Gollum side of things, he's a little more heartless. Like, he can kill quicker or something. I don't know. Like,
yeah.
Like, there's ways that they could have made this interesting and compelling. But again, everything is very surface. Everything, it's that bare minimum sort of execution. And they have these things in there where it's like, you have these extra characters, and it's, to a certain extent, it's like, I'm not necessarily sure that it's like, okay, like, hey, the weird Spaniard dude, it's like, we know that there are captives in Mordor and, whatever, but it's just kind of like, none of it matters. Josh, it goes back to what you were saying. The stakes aren't there, and it's, you could write interesting characters. Again, it's just, everything's very surfacey. There's not a lot of depth to anything. It functions, and that's about all it's got going for it. But again, like, that's part of the thing that I think is really interesting, because I see these, to me, what's interesting about this game is when I'm playing it, there's almost like this sort of parallel version of it in my head. And I'm like, this game would actually be really cool if they did X, Y, and Z. But instead, they did this, and I'm playing this version, and it's infinitely disappointing. So but yeah, and that's, I think, even sort of, John, you were talking about how the gameplay loop, it's the same. It's do these sort of meaningless tasks, escape. Do these meaningless tasks, escape. And it's kind of, it's just all of that. Again, it's very basic. The framework's pretty, and that's, again, it's not actively bad. It's not actively bad in the sense that it's painful to play. It's just exceedingly dull. It's excessively boring. It's bad because it takes everything that a video game ought to be, and it sort of has all of the form and none of the heart. And but it's hard to talk about that. Like, what's been most interesting about this game for me is sort of the struggle to develop a vocabulary to talk about why something is bad. Because I think that's the other part of it, is a lot of times when we're talking about things that are bad, we're saying, I don't like this. That's what we're really saying. We're not objectively speaking to the quality of the game. Because as a general rule, we're all playing games that are sort of functionally a little better than average. Like, they're good in a lot of ways. What's bad is we don't like the content. We don't like the message. We don't like the style. We don't like the genre. Those are the things that, when we're talking about like the qualifiers here, those are the things we're referencing. And here we're actually presented with a game that is objectively less than mediocre.
Yeah. In ways that, like, the game could be more frustrating. I think of bad games of the past, of something like Bubsy 3D, where it's just like, it's nigh unplayable because of, early 3D game, tank controls, and a platformer that's just actively frustrating to play. And that's not what this game is, but there's no compelling reason to do anything, which, again, you mentioned it. It's an interesting contrast to something like a game about digging a hole, where there is something compelling about that, or even chore games, that are glorified chores or life sims or things like that, where there are really interesting hooks. Whereas this one, yeah, it functions and it's not frustrating, but as you've said, it's dull and it doesn't seem to lead anywhere as well. So on that, taking that, because I didn't know, you put it really well, John, that you do meaningless tasks and then you escape, and then you do meaningless tasks and escape. I did not get far enough for that loop to play all the way through, so I'm kind of glad that I kind of quit when I was ahead, that I didn't experience that. But what I did experience, yeah, just wasn't there. And yeah, I agree that there's potential there that could be mined. I know that later on in the game, at one point, he creates a little bird friend. I mean, maybe if that duality between Gollum and Smeagol were there, and you lean more towards the Smeagol end, your real Hobbit side of regretting the fact that you killed your friend, being more social. Maybe he learns how to do that by caring for another being, something along those lines. And then playing that out mechanically too. I think a good game would kind of have that synergy between narrative and mechanics within the game. So yeah, there are certainly things that could be done. I get that making video games can be very difficult, and so it's not that I was going to say I don't fault them. No, I do fault them. I fault them for releasing the game and releasing it as a full priced game. But I say I understand that it can be difficult to make a game, not to excuse it, but just that there's a blanket understanding, and that this really is not a compelling video game in any sense.
I think that's an interesting point to hang on to for a minute too, where it's one of those things where this game and in playing it really does emphasize the fact that most games we play are executed with a fairly high degree of skill, whereas this, that's kind of one of the things, we keep coming back to the fact that this game's bad, and it's video games are hard to make, and this Lord of the Ring Gollum in a lot of ways is a bit of a testament to that, where it's like, yeah, it's like there's probably a lot of work that went into this, even though we're sitting here just absolutely saying like, no, it's really not good. So that's kind of an interesting point as well, where it's just like, it's something to keep in mind that there's a fair amount of work that goes on in all of this, behind all of this. And this is an area where like the work's not done well. And so we notice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know if we necessarily want to go down this road, but in preparing for the episode, I did learn that not only was it a full-priced video game, but that you could purchase a deluxe edition that I believe included some extra voice tracks in Elvish, if I recall correctly.
Yep.
And I think some cosmetic DLC, something like that, for an extra $20, $30, something like that. So not only was it full price $60 game, but you could purchase largely cosmetic DLC for even more money if you're, a real Lord of the Rings fan. I'm surprised it didn't. Well, it didn't. If it came out maybe a year or two later, then it would have come with a Gollum popcorn bucket, since those are all the rage right now. So yeah, and I think that factors into it too, because it does feel again like a slop licensed game, in that it doesn't necessarily go anywhere. There's nothing. It doesn't say anything. Largely.
I do think the fact that you mentioned that it was a full price $60 game, that doesn't help. I don't think it changes anything in the sense that, regardless of the price point, it's just, I paid $5 for this game. Well, with the podcast paid $5 for this
Sure.
game.
Thank you.
And
Joe.
So
even
that's how you're using our money.
Yes.
it's your nomination, Scrub.
For paid
So, like,
games. It's true. They got a whole $10 out of us.
We paid $5 for this thing, and I don't think it's worth $5.
Yeah, it's well, to me, like I've said, it wasn't worth the time that I spent playing it. Now, you can take that with a grain of salt, because I do think I've learned again. I do think it accomplished what we wanted it to in that recalibration of what does it mean to be a bad game, and in a sense, so the opposite side of the coin there is what does it mean to be a good game also. And so it does help me. So for the time, so I don't regret the time that I spent playing it, but I'm also just I'm reaffirmed in my decision to stop playing it. That's all.
I think it's one of those things too, in thinking about this, and like, how does it have any bearing on Christians in gaming, etc. I don't know that there's one, like, narratively there isn't really anything interesting here. It's like, narratively it's sort of a barely there story, so it's not really wrestling with any themes of any consequence in any meaningful ways. I think it's kind of one of those things where it's hard to find anything really redeeming, but also there's nothing really like outright damnable about this game, so to speak, either.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of one of those things where if somebody was like, hey, should I play Lord of the Ring Gollum? And I'd be like, well, if you want to have fun, no. But if you want to sort of understand what a pretty bad game is, I think it'll give you a really great threshold for that. Like, it will show you all the different ways like a game can kind of go wrong, because they do that. Like, it's like in almost every conceivable way, they just sort of drop the ball significantly enough to make that's the thing. The game's not, we keep coming back to this, but the game is not actively bad where it's offensive to play. It's just incredibly boring. And that's a very different kind of bad. Like, it's not broken, it's bad. And there's something interesting in that. Again, I'm not recommending people play this. Actually, I think people, it's kind of like, it's not like mark and avoid like heresy. It's mark and avoid because this is a waste of time. Like, if you're going to play as an object lesson in what not to do.
Right. And I think that there is something interesting there, even from our conversation and the ideas that have been thrown around of how this could be better. So if you are interested in video game design, I think it may be beneficial to play something like this and let the creative juices flow. How could this have been done better? That could be an interesting exercise for someone who's interested in video game development or even thinking through these things. Perhaps, even to get to attempt to find a better vocabulary, like we've talked about, around these certain things. So, but those things are again very few and far between, and not something that I would recommend to anyone. I'm just saying that there are little things that can come from even
there are things that you can learn from this. Just like if you're smart, like, you can learn from your mistakes in life.
Right. Yes. This is learning from someone else's mistake.
This is like this is the school of hard knocks here, boys and girls. Where it's like, this is not the path of wisdom in through obedience. This is the path of wisdom through pain. But yeah, it's one of those games where it's kind of interesting. I'm grateful for, like I said, and I rather foolishly did commit to beating the game, but it's kind of interesting in the sense that like, yeah, it does. It did sort of accomplish the sort of, it accomplished the task of recalibrating expectations. And so like, hey, that's good. And I think that things like that are good. But overall, this is like sort of just asking the question, is this a pass or a play? It's probably you should pass. Like there are conditions which like playing this is like makes a little bit of sense, but only if you really don't like yourself.
I would say, to kind of add to what kind of what you and Josh both said about, it kind of being like a way to calibrate what exactly is a good game. I mean, it kind of honestly, just off the top of my head, like, like just looking at like the different seasons of weather we have, summer, winter, spring, fall, like each one has like pros and cons, and you're like, okay, it is 100 degrees and humid. I'm tired of this. I want cooler weather. And then, it's snowing and, it's negative degrees and terrible wind chill. Like, all right, I want warmth. And I feel like it gives you a greater appreciation for one or the other. I mean, and maybe not, this isn't not a direct correlation, but like maybe I guess the thing that was intriguing to me about playing a bad game was the idea of, like, okay, this, I guess, trying to have a greater appreciation of what games we do have to play, like what games are actually good. Because it is really easy to just like not be content with, what you have, and like just basically think of everything as, all right, I need the next thing. But I guess I kind of thought of like, could this, help you kind of recognize more pros in the things you do currently play, or like that games, like you said, that might be a 7 that somebody would say, oh, it's a terrible game, or actually, not a terrible game, or actually a decent game in comparison to something that actually truly is a bad game. So yeah, in that sense, that it is kind of a calibration of, okay, here's kind of like the foundation of, okay, here's a bad game. This is the foundation. And then I guess using that as kind of a way to compare, okay, left or right, good, bad.
Yeah, it shows us where the floor really is. Or at least it gives us a better idea of where the floor really is. And yeah. So yeah, it's not without its uses. It's just not
exactly recommended either.
Yeah, and it's something I would definitely be interested in doing again, honestly, just to kind of, I guess, to train myself to have a greater appreciation for other stuff. So like maybe to kind of train yourself to be more content. And obviously that wasn't my 100% motivation with this, but I mean, part of it was also just curiosity. Okay, this game has such a terrible reputation, and I'm genuinely intrigued to see if it's as bad as they say it is. And that would be another motivation for me to want to play other games that have a similar reputation.
Yeah. There aren't other games that come to mind for me that are universally held in poor esteem that I can say that I've played and or enjoyed. Maybe if I sat and thought about that more, maybe something from my childhood that I really liked, but is actually a pretty bad game. So that'd be another avenue to go down to think about other bad games that I've played. But
I have been kind of like in the background. I do have like a little bit of a roster of like bad games to like wheel out and play every once in a while. And that some of them are just bad but I think it's just one of those things where, So yeah, I'm not prepared. Like, I think this one is going to do some work on me for a while. Yeah. But yeah, I'm not completely opposed to this. I actually think, the playing something that was not good on purpose, there has been something interesting there. But that's
so insofar as I agree with that. Thank you, John, for choosing this game.
But
Nate
also
does
go
not.
kick all the rocks with no shoes on.
So I am curious. Did
Yeah.
either of you experience any glitches in this game?
There wasn't anything that sticks out as like game breaking or anything along those lines. Just janky things. So not particularly. I do think the game crashed on me once or twice. But because the autosave is so frequent, I didn't lose any experience when I booted it back up.
What about you, Nate?
I think it might have like crashed on me once, but it was one of those things where I think when I go back, I'm actually, because I have done some reading that there are ways to like basically soft lock the game. Oof. Where if you talk to a certain NPC before you do something, you can basically close that thing out and the game without progressing. So it'll just be like, nope, we're right here. And this is where you will be forever until you sort of go back far enough. So I actually think as I go through it, I'm going to look for a spoiler free, like I've seen guides where they're basically like, hey, you can play through this and we will teach you how to play this so that you don't crash the game. So, but did you see any significant glitches?
I mean, jankiness, but the one that my wife and I laughed at the most was you haven't gotten far enough, but you get to this point where there's a certain line that he says, it's Gollum and Smeagol interacting with each other.
Okay.
And there's a glitch where when you die, every time you respawn, it plays this line over and over and over again. So literally from the point where it first happened to the very end of the game,
whoa,
I had that line playing. I mean, sometimes it'll get replaced with a different line, like a different line of dialogue.
Okay.
I'm going to see if I can play it. I don't know if I can actually do that. Otherwise, I'll just share it. Well, I can't change the call settings. That's annoying. It's not letting me do that. I was going to try to see if I can play it over my speaker, but I'll just have to share it. Let's see here. Copy. So I just shared it in the chat. But basically, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. It's playing through my laptop, so it might not be able to be heard very well, but I'll move the microphone a little closer.
And here's the dialogue that played the next time that I died and respawned.
What does beasts mean, Precious? What does it mean? They'll feed
Oh,
us to some
no.
And after that,
Yeah, it just... Yep.
What does it mean?
and the time
That's goofy.
And it would just play that every single time. And my wife and I would just start saying it to each other. And yeah, that was probably the thing that was the most amusing about the game.
What does beast mean, Precious? What does it mean?
Because did you die a lot throughout the game? I died a lot.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did.
Okay.
Like especially like in the Shelob's lair part, like there's a,
Okay.
you know how like in some games like where like you're basically running from like a rolling rock down a hill or something, and basically the camera has you facing the character and you're running, towards the screen.
Yep.
And it was like that, and Shelob was chasing you.
And Uncharted, man.
Yeah,
both of them.
Yeah, it was just like this is so annoying. And yeah, I die a lot during that, or just dying during like random parkour sections,
right,
or platforming. But yeah, that line it was constant. Maybe you won't get that glitch, but I did, and it would not go away.
That's pretty funny. I gotta admit, that's pretty funny.
I think, Josh, that actually needs to be like when we go out, you need to just stitch that whole thing in there right at the end.
Doesn't mean
for like 3 minutes. Oh, that's terrible. But I don't really have. It's kind of been an interesting experiment. But the reality is, like, frankly, I think we had a lot more to say about this than I anticipated. I was really actually kind of concerned because it felt like when we were at the half-hour mark, I was like, uh-oh, like it feels like we're kind of stalling out here. But yeah, it cannot be understated how sort of, at one point in time, I used the term aggressively mediocre this game is. I kind of stand by that, where it's like, it's just really subpar. But all that being said, do you guys have any thoughts that you kind of just like anything you need to unburden before we call it? Or is this a good time to start landing the plane?
No, that clip was the last thing I wanted to get out.
That's a doozy. That's a doozy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there's things to be to think through. You know, there's ways that we play games. Sometimes even just a challenge can be compelling, you know, and this game, while it does present some challenges, it never rose to that. There were fleeting moments of like something that compelled me to move forward within the game, but they were few and far between for the time that I was playing. And yeah, as we've said multiple times, it's rather bland and dull, and that's why it's a bad game. Not because it's a janky mess, but because of, frankly, there's one part of it that's just a lot of missed potential, but also, yeah, because there's something there that does not, there's no hook. There's nothing that makes me want to continue to play it. So yeah, quite a contrast again to something like a game about digging a hole, where it should be compelling, but for some reason it's enjoyable. You know, there's lots of games that have that certain spark to them, and this just does not have it.
Well, it's kind of like, what makes a game bad is kind of the question that comes out of this. And it's I think it's just one of those things where the entire process has just given me a lot to think about.
Yeah.
And again, sort of even wrestling with coming up with a sufficient vocabulary to talk about the different ways that this is bad, you know, and trying to communicate that in a meaningful way. Because like the reality is, like, it's almost like just play it for 5-10 minutes, play it for an hour, and you'll understand exactly kind of what we're talking about. But for whatever reason, it's really hard to sort of get that across the board as well, you know, where it's like, yeah. But yeah, well, I think we haven't really spilled any ink, but we have spilled a lot of words in talking about this tonight. So I think this is probably a pretty good place to land the plane. But that takes us to the closing forums, Josh.
Oh yeah.
And I just want to know, do you have any shout outs?
The one that comes to mind for me, because I am ill prepared, is that our buddy and fellow member of the Play Well Network, Paul Lytle, the Techno Funk Boy. His Kickstarter for Alartian Gates just started. There you go, and you can kickstart it. So a link for that will be in the description, the show notes, whatever. You know, you can pull that up.
It just started at the time of recording. By the time you guys hear this, it'll be a little ways.
That's true.
So
that's true.
Move quickly.
Yes. But yeah. So shout out to Techno Funk Boy.
Yeah. I'm going to give a bit of a shout out to Isaac from the Discord, aka Sojourner, in the Let's Study channel. He posed a discussion question, and Jono responded, and I've kind of been thinking about weighing in as well, but Jono responds, and it's just like, well, anything I'm going to say sounds kind of stupid compared to that. So I'm just going to be quiet now. But Sojourner just asked a question about like the difference between the baptisms that John performed and the baptisms that under Christian baptism, and are they the same thing? Are there differences? And it was just it's an interesting question. It's something that I hadn't thought about. I have thoughts about it, but I hadn't really thought about it prior to that. Yeah.
Nice.
So
sweet.
It's a cool question. Good job,
Yeah.
Isaac.
Thought-provoking.
Yeah.
I dig it.
But that also leads us to just sort of, it is the first episode of the month. And so it's time to talk about.
Here comes a new challenger.
We've got a new challenge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So before we move to new challenges, though, we do have to just give a little bit of an update on the previous challenge. So my challenge for last month was to measure my intake of calories, my caloric intake. No, actually, it was not just calories. It was just be more mindful of what I eat. And in some way, I was more mindful. Yes. It was not every day measuring everything that I eat. It wasn't. Yeah. So not 100%, but along those lines for the next month, we're coming up on summer in just a couple months. And so my challenge is really to dial in my diet more. And to that end, I did actually just the other day pick up a new scale. It was on sale on Amazon, and it's a scale that measures more than just weight, but a bunch of different metrics. It can only be so accurate because it's a cheap scale, but if I'm at least measuring those things, even if they are inaccurate, I will be able to see trends, and so what gets measured gets
mastered,
managed. Yeah, there you go. So those are my challenges. What you got, Nate?
Well, I think last time we talked about challenges, I talked about getting more sleep on the regular. I have a 3-year-old, so didn't really work out the way I wanted it to.
Okay.
But overall, I mean, I have, aside from tonight, I have, as a general rule, tried to be a little more, I shoot for that 7 to 8 hours a night. And I think,
yeah,
there are a couple days here and there where it's like, yeah, I'm getting 6. And that's like,
sure.
That's not awesome. But yeah, so doing all right there. I think moving forward, yeah, I don't know, man. I like this thing is like, I need to actually just like pull the trigger with the counseling stuff. Like I've talked to a guy,
okay,
and it's kind of on me to just make it happen. But it's also, it's one of those things where I think that it's one of those things where you kind of want to do this. You want to do it and sort of like when you're ready. But there's also a part where it's like, well, if you kind of wait till you're ready, you'll actually never be ready.
Sure.
So I think it's just kind of time where it's like, hey, I just have to figure out how to make this work. And that's not easy. Like, like I said, I've struggled with anger for years, and I just want to, I have done a lot of self-examination over the last 6 to 7 months, but it's like, I think it's probably past time to get somebody who's a little more equipped to help me sort through some of that stuff.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
So, and it's like, listen, it's like, I'm still going to be the same deranged psycho that I am now. I'm just hopefully like, not as volatile. I'm not a psycho. Well, I mean, I kind of am, but you guys don't know that.
John, is he a psycho? You would know.
No, he's not.
But
at least he hasn't been to me.
No, it's just one of those things.
Well, aside from threatening violence against me in front of my wife, but that's another story.
When did I do that? I mean,
if he gives you any trouble, I'll come sit on him.
Well, don't give your wife trouble. Like I'll reach out to your brother and have him twist you up to like a pretzel.
I know. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Like, listen, that's not threatening you with violence. That's saying like, if you behave poorly, there will be consequences.
Mhm.
That's not threatening. Like, dude, it's not like, I'm not saying like, I'm gonna do this thing. It's gonna say like, hey, you step out of line, there's gonna be consequences.
It still sounds like a threat.
Yeah.
I think you're just reading entirely too much out of it.
No, I'm just giving you a hard time.
No, that's
Nice.
that's fair. It's fair. I don't like it, but it's fair. But yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Well, John, thank you for. Well, no, I'm not thanking you. I mean, it was good to sit, like, to hang out. It was good to like talk and.
Yeah.
But yeah. That being said, Joe,
I did thank you. So
He did.
It was
did.
a good experience. Even just wrestling with myself, saying I'm done.
It's a bad experience that led to a good conversation.
Yeah,
sure.
There you go.
Sure, that's it. We could say that. But all that being said, I think we've sort of gone down this path as far as we need to for tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So until next time, Josh.
Until next time, if you want to reach out to us, then you can do that because we're all over the internet. Check out linktree.com/the Backlog Breakdown for that. We do also have a Substack, which has lots of stuff from other episodes, including the things that we recommend, links to all the stuff that we talk about, which is great, which is a lot of fun. You can sign up for that. There's a link for that in the link tree as well. So go check that out. And until next time, keep eating down your backlogs and we'll keep breaking down the benefits.